anger and frustration over the fact that after this weeks-long fight, they are not getting their key demand, which is an extension of those Obamacare subsidies. But look, you heard what Speaker Johnson said. President Trump has also been very optimistic that this is going to get across the finish line once it passes the House. It then goes to the president's desk for his signature, and all of that could happen within the span of tonight.
The cold blast continuing for a section of the Midwest and Northeast, and freeze alerts dipping as far south as Florida tonight. No winning ticket last night in the Mega Millions. It's now up to $965 million. This is ABC News. In California, officials in Santa Cruz County are now asking for the public's help to locate a missing Utah woman who was visiting and disappeared.
35-year-old Danielle Staley was last seen at a bonfire on November 6th, late in the evening on a beach in the community of Aptos. Her belongings were found on the beach, but she was gone. Detectives say they have information that Staley may be at risk and foul play might have been involved. She was last seen wearing a dark hoodie sweatshirt on the beach. Investigators are looking for surveillance video trying to figure out what happened to Staley. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Federal agencies say 15 babies across a dozen states have been hospitalized due to a botulism outbreak. The FDA says the cases have been linked to ByHeart's World Nutrition infant formula. The company is now expanding its recall of the formula nationwide. Botulism is a rare but serious illness caused by a toxin that can damage the body's nerves. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Hey, Doc, nice office. Quick question. If you had to choose, would you give yourself a root canal or run payroll?
Run payroll, no question.
Seriously? Have you run payroll before?
Paying my team with Gusto couldn't be easier. Gusto gives me unlimited payroll runs, next day direct deposits, and automatically files my taxes. Saves me time.
Wow, that's nice.
Over here, Doc. Can I run payroll too?
Choose payroll without the pain. Visit gusto.com/radio to sign up for free.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. It's Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It is the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM, joined by my co-host, John Grosvenor, who's holding down the studio there in Nashua. John, how are you tonight?
I am doing well, Todd. Same old here in New Hampshire. Taking it day by day,
Oh, Roger. Oh, we got Colonel Chris White and his special guest there, Pikachu, Colonel Chris White. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Todd. I just thought to let you know that Pikachu is in the house tonight. He's going to keep us straight.
Pikachu. All right.
What is going on with this? You're not walking around with your cell phone looking at it in the middle of the street. Are you trying to find little gems?
What is the story here? Come on now.
Oh, no. Pikachu, I'm a big fan. I went to Japan for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. I didn't really understand the whole Pokemon craze all these years later. And now I get My Little Kitty and I get Pokemon. So Pikachu, that Detective Pikachu movie.
That was a funny movie.
Pikachu's my buddy now. So I actually picked him up in Durban, in South Africa. I was at the airport, about to get on a plane, and they were selling these things. I'm like, that is an awesome stuffed animal. So Pikachu makes an appearance on my show occasionally. He's never made an appearance on this program, so I thought we just, hoist him up and say hello.
Well, there we go. Good deal. I don't know if our guest is available yet. If he is, it's Chris Neiman. He is a Army veteran, and he's Chief Executive Officer, founder of Arsenal Government and Public Affairs Group. Whenever he's ready, there he is. Chris, I almost called you Colonel because Colonel Chris White is one of our hosts. Sir, welcome to the show. Great to have you. First off, introduce yourself to everybody. Tell a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into what you do on a regular basis with Arsenal.
Sure, Todd. Great to see you. Thanks for having me on, gentlemen. It's great to be here. How do I describe this? I guess the most basic sense, I'm a consultant, but I came from Illinois suburbs. I was a post 9/11 enlistee. So let's go back just a step further. In high school, I got C grades. I had long hair and I wore Nirvana t-shirts.
All right, there we go.
And my favorite class was probably the government class. I remember in 2000, the first election I voted in was I voted for George W. Bush. And part of the reason I liked him is because everyone else didn't around me, and there's something about that. I was just kind of like, hey, I liked him. So that was the first election I voted in. 9/11 happened. I was kind of just drifting, didn't really, I was in junior college at the time. 9/11 was one of those transformational things. So enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve after that, and was in boot camp, deployed to Iraq for a year, and then after that, political science for school. I interned in Congressman Manzullo's office from Illinois, so I glanced at Washington D.C., kind of that picture, and from there, political science grad school, did some work experience, and moved to DC. And from 2012 until now, I came up through the Veteran Service Organization world as a legislative person. And then from 2015 and on, I've essentially been, I guess we'll call this an accidental entrepreneur. I walked out of, and the boss I walked out on is a good friend of the state of Metro. I just got a little disenchanted one day in my last job and walked out and never was an employee ever again. And it was creative too. Part of it was organic frictions. And I've been essentially a private sector lobbyist, public relations person ever since. And it's been an adventure of euphoria and certain successful indicators and the chaos that comes with that, just some mistakes in business, conflicts. And so I guess I'm a swamp survivor. And I guess I call myself, I consider myself independent these days, but I've always been conservative.
Right.
I've always been common sense. I've vote Republican 95% of the time. And that's it. That's my background.
There we go. And I see you on Fox News on a semi-regular basis, talking about veterans issues and things like that. How did you get into that, or was it just kind of organic with everything you have going on there?
So, it's interesting. When I was in my last kind of job, I worked at Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, which has done a lot for veterans. It's nonpartisan. I think we would all, anyone that kind of observes that they have a little bit of a left cut to it. I think, Paul Rykoff would admit, he's more of a Democrat figure, and he's done a lot for veterans, and we don't always, but I very much appreciate things that he's done for veterans, and even if he's politically, kind of on the left, I think a little too far on the left side, but it is what it is. There was a lot of media engagement with IAVA. IAVA was out there, being able to do media interviews, testify in front of Congress. And so when I started my own thing, I started from nowhere. And it was one of those things, like you hear these stories in other sectors. I was watching an old interview with Chris Cornell recently, and he was talking from Soundgarden, rest in peace. And he was talking about, I just want to be a drummer, and I just want to play as good as I could. And then, a band is going to pick me up, and I'm going to be a drummer in this band. And it didn't work out that way. Then he learned how to play guitar, and, creates this So for me, it was kind of like, I want to do media, but what do I do here? And I literally invented a title. I was just like, I'm a military policy analyst when I first started doing my own thing. And so I would do commentary, I'd start writing, and it really was just sort of doing that. I've had a lot of interesting clients. I've had two kind of part ways with business people, but it's always been veteran military policy centric at its core. I've evolved out. Now it's evolved. Evolve would be kind of an understatement. I represent one foreign party, one foreign nation, but media kind of came in a little bit organically. And, I've been a public relations person. I've worked with people but a lot of that is just kind of time and place. I feel like, Fox News has always been a little right leaning. Now, it is what it is. It's corporate. They're trying to kind of do everything now, right? We want to have people happy. And you look at we're talking about the Veterans Day parade. They want to try to put me in a corner on SNAP benefits and stuff.
Right. I saw that. Yeah.
I
not really
couldn't
appropriate on that day.
Go down that road at that moment. But it was sort of an extension of what I do. And you gentlemen, I'm sure could appreciate, media is its own world of reward and risk. And it's not easy. It's like its own stressors of the effort you put in to try to get on television. It's almost like like an omen, like just it's like, God, put me on when you want me on, and but if you try too hard, it doesn't work, and if you don't try hard enough, it doesn't work. So it's kind of like just being in the
right
there when those opportunities present themselves. So that's yeah.
I would like to ask you before I turn over to the Colonel, the two nations that you represent. I think one is in Africa, right? And of course, Colonel Chris Wyatt's an Africa expert, by the way. But I think one is in Africa. I saw your pictures. You traveled over there recently, which was kind of cool.
Absolutely. So I represent, among others, I represent the Federal Republic of Somalia, the embassy, managing government affairs in Washington, D.C. I think primarily White House. And I represent the SPLMAO, the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement Army in opposition. So in this case, this is the party, the acting party chairman is not the first vice president. I guess in the hierarchy, first vice president Riek Machar is my client, and he's under house arrest. He's been charged with murder. And for all of anyone that has familiarity with South Sudan, it's Africa is its own. I mean, it's we've been around for 200 years. Africa is the conflicts, the parties. The North Sudan Sudan proper, which we kind of look at as North Sudan, has a war. South Sudan has never had an national election. It's our perspective on behalf of the party that it's essentially a tyrannical run government at the moment. It's a regime. It's backed by China. It's economically backed by China. And the first vice president is essentially under house arrest. So it's kind of an adventurous thing. Someone the other day was talking to me at the parade. They're like, how do you sleep at night? And I said, I don't really sleep that well to begin with, but it is existential.
Join the club.
Right. It's been interesting, and I represent several public universities and all that. So it's we have to be bipartisan. We have to work with both people. I still am a little vocal. I actually got a talking to the other day from the ambassador because I don't know if we're allowed to swear on the show. I'm going to presume not, unless you tell me.
No, yeah, it's terrestrial radio. Yeah, correct.
Right. So, but I had made a partisan comment about one of the Democrat members. They were chanting through that Capitol about swearing in the nepotism for this daughter, this whatever, and I just made a comment around like more Democrat shenanigans, something to that extent. And he made a comment about we want to make sure we can work, and we do. So we all have to have our freedom of expression and our morals while also being. It's a balancing act. I can't sit around and watch people engage in defamation or be not honest about something, but we do have to work with people. I might need to go through the Foreign Relations Committee. I might need to go through these Democrats for different things. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Colonel, if you want to jump in, and generally how we like to do it is that we start with the Colonel. He'll hit a bunch of questions. It'll come back around and we'll wrap it up by the end. So Colonel, go ahead, sir.
Well, that's just his way of putting the job on me. That's how this works.
All right.
Well, I can empathize with the whole thing about the media. I don't think my co-hosts know this. They know about the event, but I confirmed this week the following. So CNN flew me to Birmingham, Alabama a couple months ago to be part of a documentary on South Africa, in particular the refugees coming over from South Africa. And so I interviewed one of the refugees who I know, and some of my viewers told me that, well, they're just doing that. They're flying you down there so they can get access to your refugee contacts. I said, that's fine. They're paying for the flight and the hotel. So, I mean, I'll take that. But they were earnest about putting me in the interview. And they did an hour and 45 minutes for the refugee, and he'll get probably a couple minutes in the video. And then we rushed to a nearby park and sat down and wired up, and it was kind of awkward. Someone was mowing the grass, and the on-air personality, the Irish guy from CNN, Donny O'Sullivan, asked me questions. Basically, he was trying to get me to say that Trump was wrong about the refugee program, and I refused to bend just to be on television. It's the truth should win out. So I did confirm this week that I'm not in the documentary, and having seen the trailer for the documentary, I'm actually I'm not heartbroken, and probably I dodged a bullet because there's going to be a lot of pissed off people in South Africa when they see this documentary, because I was told it was about in advance of the G20, but the title was this Misinformation, White Genocide. So I'm glad that I'm not in it. But anyway, so I get the point about you never know. Media is a funny game. So I've never heard Fox call me yet either, so I don't have to worry about that bullet.
No, it's that's very interesting, and I think it may have been a spiritual protection having you done that, because we also wouldn't want to be in a project where, and it's I guess we have to acknowledge it. And one thing about, regardless of what anyone thought about President Trump, somewhere along the lines, I kind of thought about this metaphor. He's almost like the John Connor of taking out the Democrat Party, like where they say John Connor figured out how to defeat the machines. Like somewhere along the lines, I think he figured out they just want power. I'm going to smash them over the head. And with that, I think on occasion there's to a fault where maybe we go a little too far, but really hit them hard. But when we talk about we hear that, the fake news media has been this thing we hear so much. Ironically, still to this day, you're watching television today, they say things that aren't true over and over. And they're trying to kind of because it comes, I mean, again, it's, what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads. There is a little bit of that, but that's so impressive, Colonel, that happened and that you evaded that because you were detecting it. You were detecting what they were trying to do. And it's to a fault. It's to a fault. I really think that it's, it'd be nice if we did have some semblance of some journalism where we just can kind of, have that. And I think the future, and I'll do my last Terminator reference, the concept of that film. And now when we look at like AI, I think it's very probable that could be what the future looks like, where essentially we're trying to wrestle back the technological corridors of knowledge we've created and try to get our freedom back. And with social media and with the information age, on the one hand, there's so much information. On the other hand, every day you see it, there's something that goes out. It's not true. It's not correct. And it's, what did Winston Churchill say? A lie travels halfway around the world before the truth gets a chance to put its pants on. So that's a great anecdote they had there about that CNN documentary.
No, well, I mean, look, I'm not inexperienced. I've given interviews in German, French, and English to media around the world, and I've been involved in strategic communications. And I speak 6 languages, so they don't. I saw it coming, and when I left that interview, I told a few of my viewers when I got home, I said, don't expect to see me in the CNN interview because I didn't say what they wanted me to say. I told the truth. The same thing happened to me when I was in South Africa earlier this year, talking about the refugees as part of my normal trip over there. And I was cornered by a Dutch film crew. And you could see the consternation in his face when he asked me questions like, so what gives President Trump the right to let white Afrikaners come to America? Well, the Immigration Nationality Act of 1980 allows the president to do this. Congress, the president, or the State Department can determine a group of people. Yeah, but why white people? Well, first off, it's not white people. It's for racial minorities, which includes colors and Indians. Next question, dummy. Anyway, I didn't say dummy, but I said, it's the same sort of thing. It happens all the time. So I'm supposed to appear in another documentary, but this is an Afrikaans documentary in South Africa. I think it's more likely I'll be there. But I think also part of this, to be quite honest, is that before I was censored on after January 6th by YouTube, illegitimately, and they did return that channel after damaging it 23 months later. But before then, and before I became a target for the Biden regime using third parties in the tech industry to violate the First Amendment and censor people, I was a regular source of information for the Washington Examiner, for the Washington Times. They would contact me about counterterrorism and issues in Africa. I haven't got a single phone call or email from any of those news agencies since January 6th. So that just shows you the collusion. Never heard from Fox News, any of these people. So anyway, but that's enough about my whining about my social media wilderness status. But I shared it, and I think you agree. It was a good anecdote to talk about why media has an influence here, and you were talking about the media. I did want to talk a little bit about South Sudan, since you mentioned that. The situation in South Sudan is a pretty difficult one. A lot of Americans don't know. We have poured billions and billions and billions of dollars into South Sudan. And there was an agreement. Salva Kiir became the president. Riek Machar became his vice or deputy president, whatever term they want to use. And the South Sudanese just can't get along. They didn't even, not even 2 years into a brand new country, they went to war. And in fact, I was a recipient of that mess based in Uganda at the time. We tried to do the non-combat evacuation at a Bor, and our Special Air Forces Osprey were lit up by gunfire despite General Ham negotiating a ceasefire for our aircraft to come in. They intentionally targeted us. We have a special Air Force special operator who has no leg up to the hip. That because of a wound that he received being shot up in that aircraft. It's a terrible situation, and it just continues. You say that you do some advising for the South Sudanese, and of course the deputy president's under house arrest now. But what is the situation like? It doesn't, from the outside looking in, because I haven't been in the region for a couple of years. I just follow it from events and then analyze it. It looks like we have no progress. Is that the situation at this point?
Absolutely correct. Right on the money. It's. I'd say we have a little bit of deterioration. The situation with those militias, and again, it's a blame game. the charge for the first vice president, Riek Machar, which I think the government is essentially, their position is that he's been stripped of that rank. His spouse is also under house arrest as well. And actually, I'll kind of tip my hand, and then I have to, I maybe have to do my disclaimer. I represent the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement Army in opposition. Everything we do, we also have to, report to the Department of Justice. But I decided to become an attorney in fact last year. By attorney in fact, it means that I'm not an attorney, but I've represented myself 4 times and won all 4 times now against the IRS, against others. And I just sat down one day and I started studying the law. And there's something that I have a whole bunch of hangups, right? One of them is, we're lied to a lot growing up in education when it comes to and by the way, I mentioned this guy on the Fox News interview. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a year ago. It came out in 1997, and it did change my life. I'm like, we are taught the wrong, we're taught these things. But one of them is and there's just so many things about money and those kinds of things, but it's just incorrect. So we have to get out of those some kind of those ways of thinking. And I'm completely forgetting what my point is. So as I try to retort that, I'm just
we call those senior moments.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. It'll come back to me, but it does. And then I try not to act like it just, but I decided to join the legal team. And the reason I'm doing this is because if I'm not allowed to see, and our counsel, but if we're not allowed to see Riek Machar, he's denied legal counsel. So what my intention is, I'd like to go see him in Juba by the end of the year. And if the president won't let me, then that's going to be a problem. And if they try to, I don't think that they would try to kidnap or kill me. I think that'd be too obvious because and the reality is, and this is just open hand thing here, we're on the show here, I am their representative in Washington, D.C. It doesn't look good what President Kiir's doing. It doesn't look good that China's heavily involved in financing. His health is also deteriorating. I think his mental cognitive is in decline. But, I'm here to report up to the White House and Congress on this. So even though I'm not the official, I actually think, and there's 2 sides to everything. For so many years, it's the shadow diplomacy and this and that. I think if you're transparent about it, it's actually more effective, because someone said the other day, they're like, you could stack someone's resume up with the State Department against me, and this guy's got 30 years. These ambassadors have 30 years experience. Yeah. How many times have they been to war? How many times has their life been in jeopardy? How many times have they been homeless for 2 years because of an issue with the Biden IRS? How many businesses have they started? And I'm like, holy smokes, I have more experience than they do. And by the way, I'm advising a president overseas, and we're doing things. And I had him on news. By the way, another hard lesson: when your friend in journalism promises you he won't ask a question about Ilhan Omar,
he will.
Asks a question about Ilhan Omar. And again, you know what? It's what do we call this? The precautionary principle. I think deceased business coach Jim Rohn would call it the law of averages. But to tie that all in, is Colonel, it's always refreshing when someone really knows, and I'm confident you have advanced knowledge of this region beyond me. I'm what I call a brisk generalist. I get up to speed quickly, and we learn about it's a fascinating history going back to John Garang, the circumstances around his death, which I think are suspicious, and we could probe. But yes, essentially, I would like to make sure that the first vice president is safe. That his that he has due process. He doesn't now. And look, I'll wrap this line of thought up with this. We have a president that has a policy that's more of America first. It's a refreshing. It's kind of I would say it's not necessarily isolationist, but a realignment of priorities. That he's not interested in a lot of these African nations because of apprehension, an understandable apprehension that we're pumping money in here, we're wasting it. And part of my resonance in the House Foreign Affairs Committee is when I mention China, that's more my angle now, because they're like, well, wait a minute, we don't want China to come in here and take over economically. So that's where I've been seeing successes. But you're absolutely correct that it is not a lot of progress, and the party leadership, and I'm grateful and enthusiastic about representing them financially. All their assets have been frozen. The party leadership, put together some pulled their bootstraps together to fund lobbyists, and I'm perfectly happy. I never complain. First of all, it's an honor to represent them. Some nations have a big treasure chest of gold, and a rant for another time, is I think we talk about foreign aid. There's also a lot of money coming into D.C. for Washington, D.C. white shoe law firms that do nothing.
Yeah.
The word fraud comes to mind for me if they don't actually do what they're supposed to do. But look, I just give them earnest representation and try to make progress. And, South Sudanese Christian, I mean, they've got resources down there. It's very different from North Sudan. I have not been. I've been in Nairobi. I've been into Mogadishu. I was kind of near an attack that just occurred on the 3rd when I was there. Separate discussion, but my intention is to head to Juba as soon as possible and see my client. And if the government refuses, the United Nations, the BS United Nations speech that the current vice president gave is completely phony. He hasn't had due process. They haven't had an election. So that's just kind of some opening salvo response to South Sudan.
Well, listen, you're welcome to identify as an attorney. In fact, I identify as a lampshade because I shed light on the world. So
I like it. I like it. I might use that. Look, the attorney in fact thing is kind of fun, but and I think he's much better looking than me and more wealthy. But people have always said you look like Mike Ross from Suits, and he's a fake lawyer. He plays a pretend attorney. But when you really study the law and everything, because this idea that that's the thought I never fully finished earlier, was that there's this idea that we have to go to school and do this. You better get a good lawyer. We hear these words programmed our whole life. You better wait a minute. So in our own country, we need somebody else to represent us in a system. And by the way, all of us here, I believe, served in the military and went to war. I better go find a good lawyer. Is there a such thing? Shakespeare is calling from beyond the grave.
Well, I hear some of the good lawyers at the bottom of the ocean. That's what I've heard. But no, in fact, in most jurisdictions, not all, you don't even have to attend law school. You simply have to pass the bar. If you study, you can pass the bar, you can become an attorney. It may not be advisable. The bar is not easy, but anyway. So if you're trying to get traction, some advice, Chris, is that in the Congress, all you got to say is the phrase you've already said, China and Africa, and suddenly you have their attention. But I also agree, Donald Trump really doesn't have any interest in Africa. Care about Africa. Most presidents don't. The South Africans are obsessed. They seem to think that he's out to get them. They're the ones getting themselves in trouble. Let me switch attention here because you do obviously on the part of veterans here. I want to talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you know, but I don't want to conflate these two stories because you've probably seen the recent one. But I don't know if you saw the one that came out in February last year. The Washington Post, or as I prefer to call them, the Washington Compost. The Washington Compost in February last year ran an article in which they bemoan veterans' disability. And the premise of the article was that veterans' disability is costing us too much money. It should be means tested because Social Security disability payments aren't enough. And it's not fair that veterans get paid more than that. Well, first off, we don't get paid a lot. Unless you're 100% disability, it's not that much money. And even that's not enough. We're talking $4,300 a month for someone 100% disabled and with the rating. And that's not enough to live off unless you live in a trailer in Montana with the Unabomber, or you live in West Virginia. It just isn't enough. Anything below, I mean, if you get 50%, it's only like $1,000 a month. I mean, that's the difference between 50 and 100%. So what they try to do is the following. And what's that guy, Billy Bob Jones or whatever, the guy that's on Fox, he's missing both legs. He's got that Southern drawl.
Joey Jones.
Joey Jones. Yeah. I don't know much about the Fox. I see it occasionally. I stopped watching it in 2016, but yeah, that kid, he makes $250,000 a year for sure, probably working on Fox. Okay. So what they were trying to say is that basically means testing, he makes over $150,000 a year, so he should get no veteran's disability. The problem here is that a veteran's disability is not because you cannot work. It's like an insurance settlement. When you have a car totaled, you're supposed to get another car or money. When your house burns down, you're supposed to be able to get another house. When you are disabled from the Veterans Administration, your rating is to compensate you for your loss of ability or what you've suffered to make you whole again. That's the purpose of it. And last year they conflated this. I don't know if you saw that story, but I find it reprehensible because they got away with it. I'm one of the few people that said something about it. They slipped it in last year, and they started this argument to attack veterans by saying that we should be means tested. And I'll tell you what, that I find that offensive because veterans, whether they have a combat injury or a peacetime injury or some condition that's service related, it's in serving the nation. And they should receive some sort of compensation. It certainly isn't. It isn't making people wealthy. But that's the first story. So, any thoughts or comments, or did you see that story last year?
So, I'm glad you brought this up. So, in my years working at VSO, I'm familiar with this. And again, this goes back to the beginning of VA disability benefits. My first experience with this was around 2012-13, where some proposals were floated that didn't get much traction, but they were controversial. Republicans, I think Senator Burr at the time, who went on to do insider trading and all this other stuff, and I'm disappointed about it. But had a bill that would sort of incentivize health, but it was one of those things where it was designed to curtail our benefits. And I did not see that last year, but it's the same. It's a revision of, I think, earlier years. I remember Senator Duckworth, who we need a whole hour, gentlemen. I do not like her for a variety of reasons. I've had some negative experiences with her. Strongly dislike her, and I'd love to go on.
Take a number. She's an annoying, obnoxious person.
Arrogant, narcissistic, not that smart, and the embodiment of it. First of all, she wouldn't have been elected unless gerrymandering. She should have a tattoo. They picked her voters for her because she couldn't win, and she's just arrogant and entitled. And I need a whole hour for her, please, at some point, if we could do that. But she was kind of weighing in. But here's the thing. So I didn't, but now here we are with this piece. I think that the powers to be, the money people, and I won't use any names on this one because there's some people that work in the highest echelon of, we'll say, the think tank conservative commercial space that, I mean, they look at it and they just think like, how can we save money? And I think it's their job to kind of float this stuff out there. And, the bottom line is, what are the two biggest agencies? They relate to us. Those agencies exist because of
DOD
us.
and VA.
Right. So it's 0.1% served. So I used to be almost a little bit right of center in terms of like, yeah, there's people out there gaming this. But here's the thing. There's always going to be someone in a system. There's going to be some level of fraud or some folks, quote, gaming system. My viewpoint changed when, one, it's so hard to get disability, to get up to where you're supposed to be. And, 4,000, I think it's a little bit over 4,000 for a single veteran. Again, SMC, you can look at it, could be a little more, is a drop in the bucket for a 100% disabled American veteran, oftentimes fighting wars. And we have, most members of Congress, they have a salary of, I believe, $174,000 a year, a $1 million representational allowance, and they insider trade all day long. They're all day long. This is one benefit of the Trump presidency. Quick tangent is like his ability he didn't need the money. He was wealthy when he came in. Wealthy when he doesn't take a salary. You go in there and your net. It's both parties. Boom, 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 boom. How did that happen? And it's just one of those things where. So for VA disability to come after us, sure, reforming, sure, put a bill forward, have a discussion, but the idea that we're gonna do that to veterans is it's just not a fair narrative, and I don't think that will happen. I just think that in their mind, the opposition's on this post, the Washington Compost is, if we have any shot of this, if we have any shot of clawing this back, it's got to be during this presidency, during the kind of let's reform. And so I'm actually pleasantly surprised that there hasn't been, with DOJ, that was more about some of the workforce people. But Secretary Collins, I don't know him personally. I know a few of the deputy secretaries very personally, the chief financial officer personally, newly. I just don't see him going in there and doing things to hurt vets. I don't. And I just feel like, programs like VRE, for example, are interesting where there's so much, it's like a treasure chest under the ocean, covered up, wrapped, where they have the power to send me or Todd to law school. You know what I mean? But they don't. They don't. They'll send someone over here to do it, but then they want to try to fight because it's an employment program. So all this is to say there are a lot of regulatory issues inside the VA, but the idea that veterans, Secretary Collins, I was watching on Net TV the other day, and I was at Arlington later in the day, but I think he said it really well, which is people in the media, people in the political establishment. Let me just say something right here, and I won't do his voice. I do impressions, and they're pretty decent. But in his Georgia accent, he basically just said, you know what? This thing about veterans get. No, let me just make something clear. They earned everything that they're receiving. So I think we're going to be in good shape in this administration. And numerically, the budget has tended to go up at VA, right? Regardless of administration.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's okay. So yeah, now we've conflated the issues. That's why I was trying to put a pin in it. So we'll segue into that now. But the point I was making is the reprehensible behavior of the newspaper, making an argument for people who haven't served. How do you compensate a man who has no children because he has no testicles because of a roadside explosion? And that's what VA disability is for. The people get Social Security disability don't even have to pay into Social Security one day of their life, and they get a disability payment because they're unable to work. This is different. People who served and suffered as a consequence, it's to make them whole again. And to see journalists, that's a generous term, journalists,
Right.
try to equate military service and the loss of brain capacity or missing limbs or things like that as the same as Social Security disability. I found obnoxious. It didn't get any traction, and I'm not worried about this administration happening. But I said on January 6th, or basically I said on November when Trump supposedly lost that election, in 2020, I said that what's going to happen is that you watch, as soon as the new administration comes in, the first thing to do is go after veterans. Then they're going to start denigrating the active duty military, and they're going to try to destroy our reputation that we spent 4 decades rebuilding after Vietnam. You watch, and as sure as anything, what was the highlight? The insurrectionists were primarily former military. First off, that wasn't accurate, but that's when it started. And then this article came out last year, another step in this by the media trying to destroy veterans. Okay, let me segue to what you were getting at now. Secretary Collins and the Washington Compost has had a series of articles come out in the past few weeks in which they went through 20 years of data, and they found 9 cases of severe fraud. And then then that story they got lambasted on because basically they implied that we're all frauds. Well, here's the bottom line. My hip is falling apart. I can barely walk as a consequence of an injury in the Army in 1985. I served until 2019 with that injury, and I was okay with it, but they never treated it properly. And if they identified it was what it was, they could have fixed it, but they just ignored me for years. And anyway, so now it's progressed to the point where I'm in trouble. I have a 10% disability. Hip replacement. That's what they want to do. I'm too young for hip replacement. But if I go and get hip replacement, and first off, I'll be out of pain. I'm in pain. I'm in pain sitting here right now, and I get 10% for that from the VA. But that's a prosthetic. I get an automatic 30% disability. I haven't gone for hip replacement to get the money, and I didn't go get it 3 or 4 years ago when I should have gotten it. So to hear these scumbags talk about veterans gaming the system, and honor is our word, most of us, these are exceptions, but they make it seem like it's, and then they lie. Well, the soaring cost of the VA for 2 reasons. Number one, you all passed the PACT Act, and you don't have to, no one has to prove that they had got their cancer from military service. If you're a veteran, you get cancer because you smoked every day, you're going to get paid. You caused this. And then also with VA reform started under Obama. He was a shyster, but we'll give him credit. He started, and Trump carried it through, the VA reform. It's been a lot easier for many people to file claims and have their claims heard. It's still problematic, but the number of cases has soared for that reason. And the third reason is 20 years of conflict. We've had 4 million people serving conflict for the last 20 years. So of course the veterans' claims are going to go up, plus the dollar amounts are higher. So those 3 things, they mention them, but they dismiss them. And that irritated me. So that story came out. They tried to say that veterans were scamming the system. And a lot of us respond, including the commander of the VFW, in an excoriating op-ed piece that she wrote. Was brilliant. I didn't even know who she was, even though I'm a VFW member. Now I know. Now they've come back with another story. And this is the story you should have gone with. Like payday lenders, the people who try to get veterans to up their claim all the time and make money off of it. That should have been the story. But instead, they've attacked veterans. But now that they got called out on it, they backed up and ran another story saying, oh, no, it's these people. This is the sort of stuff that irritates me. If you've served this nation with honor, you shouldn't have to put up with this crap. What do you think, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for retorting to that first half, because, again, VA disability benefits, there's so much to it. You're right. The idea in the mind of most Americans is that, it's money just to survive because of it's more than that. Even if first of all, if we can overcome it, that's wonderful that you have this aptitude. You still have the disability. I could have 100% post-traumatic stress disorder and build a freaking $3 million company. That's wonderful. But guess what? I'm doing that in spite of the disability. It's how an average person and someone, it's what it takes away from you. And I feel like, and I played softball with Ryan Gallucci. I've known him for years. He did a pretty good job in front of Congress. I believe now he's the executive director of the VFW National, of basically saying, and many veteran spokespeople have gotten more, I think, seasoned on this and online videos and forums, and is that, while we are serving, we are government property. We give up our freedoms. We give up our rights. We're in this chain of command. And if something happens to us, and it's key, and Colonel, I know you're going to know this, occupational hazards. Right. So, I was military police. I was military police in Iraq at a prison. And there was bombs exploding out on the road and all these different things. But even without that, the tuberculosis, the prisoners, all of those types of things. So I thought that part of the VFW testimony for Congress was good as, toe fungus. That's really just insignificant. Really? Well, let's look at something resulted to a service that then became an infection. And let's just go back to the beginning of American history. I believe President Washington said something along the lines of, people will serve in future generations based on how we take care of veterans. And so if we don't take care of them, we can't expect other people to move forward And I have a lot of thoughts on the DoD reform. I largely think it's absolutely great what's going on there. But yeah, so the disability system is there to try to make whole to some extent what's happened with the disabilities, and it's not easy. It's not easy to earn and get, and just once again, less than 1% of folks serve in the military. It feels more, but it's not. My grandfather served on Iwo Jima 5th Marines. Now, I don't even know that they had disability compensation back then. Again, and part of it, too, I think with World War II, good, bad, or indifferent, one, I think the enemy was more identified, and it was looked at as victory. A lot of them, I think, was just completely compartmentalized. We got the white picket fence. We never looked back. I think the more recent conflicts, post-Vietnam, Vietnam as well, there's been questions about morality, and Vietnam veterans we're against them, and then with us it's kind of, I almost think it's when I say we, Afghanistan, Iraq, we'll say post 9/11. I think we benefited a little bit almost from hero worship a little bit, which is
Hey, look, Chris, sorry to interrupt you, but I agree 100% with that, and that's always made me uncomfortable. I had been in the Army. 83 is when I came in. I came back a year after 9/11. A few months after, a year after the 2000 election. So in November of 2001, I came back to States, and I have a black Army rain jacket. It has Army on the back. And everywhere I went, people were thanking for my service. And I was like, okay, you're welcome. This has never happened in my 18 years in the Army. But and then here in Pennsylvania, we have I think the third highest number of living veterans in the country, over 650,000 at a just 11.5 million population. So here, people, especially in central Pennsylvania, when they know you're a veteran, they thank you for the service. And of course, our broadcast comes on the heels of Veterans Day. And yesterday, we had people bringing cards from the primary school for veterans. And we go to other events, and then people putting up banners across the footbridges and stuff and waving for thanking veterans. It's really appreciated. But I always tell people to stop. And I spoke at the Lions Club Monday. I said, stop for a moment and think about why you're saying that. We appreciate it. But, thank a first responder, thank a law enforcement officer, thank a fireman. They put their lives on the line every day, and everyone's serving for your benefit. But it does become a little bit of hero worship at times. But while I find it a little bit uncomfortable, it's certainly better than the alternative, which Vietnam veterans had to deal with. I'm grateful for that. Let me segue before I wrap up, because two things. I want to just ask you very quickly about, you've got global security here, something you mentioned. So what exactly do you do in that field? Because that's geopolitical stuff is what I do. So I'm curious.
It's interesting. So we have clients in just it's kind of an interesting, entertaining thing, because we've got some sports media with some former UFC champions and some just frankly entertainment media in terms of kind of some of their post career things and opportunities. Global security, we have some executive protection firms that are involved in guarding high net worth individuals overseas and security, PTSD. Some of it's just what I'm talking about, just because it's proprietary with the company. Most of the global stuff is just the FARA related stuff now, the lobbying related stuff. And I definitely, it's interesting. There was a cancellation. I think there was some student at my master's degree alma mater in Springfield, Illinois, University of Illinois Springfield, used to be called Sangamon State. The real reason I went there is I can't do math. I would have to reveal the ethical things I engaged in just to barely get through undergraduate math. Well, maybe one day I'll.
It's funny how you said ethical. I was imagining unethical.
Right. Well, that's I don't know how. Let's just say this. I don't know how I got through.
But you did.
College math. We'll leave it there.
I don't recall, Your Honor.
But in grad school, there was a low requirement. At this particular program, there was quantitative analysis, but I found my way to Springfield, Illinois, and Dana Perino had gone there for a master's in public affairs reporting. So in my mind, and again, post-Bush, I kind of looked up to her, and I was just emailing her with her this week about stuff. I'm like, this is, and she was in a program called public affairs reporting. They had a couple really prestigious internships. One I didn't get, and I was that's all. Again, gentlemen, so many topics are like, I need an hour on that whole thing. But and I'm trying to do it tonight where I have something, and I'm these senior moments. They're
well. Let me shift real quick so I get my last one in here. Okay, then we'll do that. That'll save you the senior moment. All right. So we just had Veterans Day, and this one's a rather poignant one. It's been 80 years since the conclusion of the Second World War. There were 16 million men and women who served in uniform during the Second World War. Today, less than 50,000, possibly less than 30,000 alive. The youngest are 97 years of age. Most are centurions. That in itself is impressive longevity. That's, to go through that, you serve a baton or something, and you live to be 100 years old. It's amazing. But they're dying off. You mentioned the number of veterans, and that's where I want to go with this. In 1970 was the peak. We had 28, almost 29 million living veterans, of course, because 16 million in World War II, many of them still alive, then Vietnam, Korea, Vietnam. So 28 million, but that was out of a population of 203 million. So as a percentage of the adult population, there was like 1 of every 5 adults was a veteran. Today, less than 4% of the country is actually served in uniform. We have 15 million living veterans today. And by 2040, that will decline to 12.9 million, even with new cohorts coming in and serving in the military. There's becoming a disconnect between service and society. Most people have never served. Their uncle, their aunt, their brother, their sister, mother, they've never suffered loss. They haven't dealt with missing births and deaths and living in a crap hole country and having terrible nutrition and things explode around you. And they don't understand the sacrifice. I'm very concerned about our civil military relations going forward as fewer and fewer people serve in uniform. And also, I'm conversely worried about the hero worship, where people worship is just because we're nothing special. We're just Americans who answer the call. Anyone who's capable can answer the call. We've done it. You want to thank us for that? I think that's what matters. Any thoughts on that, Chris? And then I'm going to turn it over to Todd.
Yeah, Colonel, I'll be quick. And I retorted. I don't know if it's sleep deprivation the last few days. I just things start going. I come back real quick. The reason I mentioned that the alma mater is, and I went to a really great private lobby firm with the most ethical guys I'll ever meet that taught me everything I know about lobbying. Number one, always be honest. You get caught lying, you're done. Your word is everything. The information you have to be, and they taught me that lobbying. I think lobbying done correctly and ethically is extremely patriotic. I think it's actually more valuable than voting. But there was an article that someone couldn't do it because they were part of, I think, America's Got Talent, some undergrad. So they did a profile on me, and it was odd. They're like, how would you compare yourself to? Probably like Luke Skywalker. I'm sitting out on Tatooine. I'm like just this middle, like I'm not involved in any of this, and everything I fall into, I'm unprepared for. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. And then somehow through these interesting, I think life is like, our lives are like episode 4, right? It's just like we end up getting there, but we're like, how are we going to do this? But one other thing too, Rick Weidman, who was the government affairs guy at Vietnam Veterans for many years, I've learned a lot from Rick, and I think Rick's a little bit of an old liberal too. But he just said, you don't have to be a veteran to be a veterans advocate. There's a lot of great non-veteran advocates, but you're right. There's the staff director of the House Veteran Affairs Committee. Him and I have kind of gone at it on some policy over years because I also represent the some of the public aviation colleges that have, they're more expensive, to train under the GI Bill. And I think we're kind of made up and everything, but it's not a disrespect, but he's not a veteran. He's not a pilot. And he's in there making policy and advice. Now, Mike Bost is, and I met him years ago in Springfield on the run. So I do think it is important. I do. I think it's important. I mean, and again, I talk about personalities. I should avoid it because it could take us off a tangent. Stephen A. Smith also never played basketball. I don't like it.
Right. Right.
I mean, this guy, dude, you never played in the NBA, man. You never played in the NBA. You've never, so.
Yeah, but see, look, I mean, so I see where you're going, and I don't disagree with it to a point. There's always a certain number of people in any age cohort that can do anything, even if they've never done it. They can empathize, they can understand, they can get. I mean, Alexander the Great conquered the world almost as a teenager. I'm not saying there are many Alexander the Greats, but there are people. Look, I don't like Stephen A. Smith too because of his views, but he's trying to pull himself back into reason lately. But he's a bit of a wackadoodle on his views, especially when it comes to race. But there are people who don't necessarily have done something to get it. But but my concern is not so much that. It's really, I'm worried about society losing sight of the military, like we're some Praetorian Guard and we're just over here and we pull them out of the box when we need them and we send them off. Like, I mean, America didn't suffer. The economy grew, jobs grew, people had lives. The NFL became racist. The NBA was racist. Did I say that last? Yes, I did. And life continued in America while we sent people to Iraq and Afghanistan, the Philippines, and Colombia to die over and over and over again. And there was virtually no impact. They're back here, and they went about their lives. They went to Starbucks, they went to Kohl's, they went wherever they need to go. And life continued for most Americans. There was no shared sacrifice here. And I'm not bemoaning that. I'm just saying that creates potentially some animosity and some misunderstanding between those groups, military and veterans and society. And that's why I just want to get your thoughts on that.
No, absolutely, and it's out of sight. I have this Alexander the Great mural. It's a copy of one of those, the marble one. It's very interesting. He's got a spear. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think just studying history is a healthy thing, is learning what happened. I don't know why I find it peaceful and calming. I'll watch American Heroes channel some night. Maybe it's the narrator voice. I just sit there and I'm like, I mean, think about how crazy. My grandmother used to talk about growing up during World War II, and the reality is it did affect a lot of people. The challenge we're in, especially post 9/11, is it doesn't affect all other people. Right? I mean, I got to give credit to a woman, her husband. She's a Gold Star spouse. She said it really well on Fox years ago. She was like, I know I've been hearing a lot of people are really tired about the war. That's interesting that you're tired about fighting the war you never fought. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's interesting. So again, we pick up little nuggets. I love that one. It's like, really, you're tired of a war you never fought, and don't really have the context. So I think studying history, but I feel like, I was at the Tomb of the Unknown the other day, right? And it says on there, paraphrase essentially, here lays a soldier known but to God. I feel like there's some things that God admires more than others on earth, and service and sacrifice and military service and warriors and I think in Greek mythology, they talk about the Elysian fields, that you bypass, you go straight to the higher echelon. There's something about service and sacrifice that's just true and that's above political nonsense, and look, we live in an age where I think we know where all of our politics are. It's over here. There's veterans that are hard right. There's veterans that are liberal, and we all we play it now. We leverage that for certain areas of credibility, but we do need to have an apolitical military that can be effective, that can be lethal. And thank God that the DEI stuff inside the Pentagon, that had to go. It bothered me during the Obama years that Lady Gaga is making DOD policy. Sorry, Stephanie Germanotta, I appreciate your artistic talents.
Sure.
Why are you making military policy? And this gets me in hot water sometimes with my liberal friends, but this thing of we're stronger together. Do we need transgender service members? I don't know that we need to. I mean, if we had, if like Arnold Schwarzenegger came in the military, do we need to pay for the performance? I mean, if we have to keep someone ready or keep someone's hormonally a certain way, it's actually a risk. I think we're like-minded here, but I agree that we have to keep the warrior ethos.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's like we've eaten most of the hour there, so I don't know if Todd's getting much of a chance to question, but I do want to share, since you mentioned DEI, my pronouns are American and patriot.
I saw a funny one the other day that was like, I and me. And I saw another one.
Wait a second, that's old school.
Right.
It was, and for some reason, these people with all these pronouns want to go into countries where people want them dead, where their pronouns are going to be used to be or something.
Well, look, I mean, things don't always make stay. I'm still waiting for that flotilla of gays for Gaza and see how that goes for them.
Right. Good luck.
No,
I mean, look, the only place you're safe being gay is here. You're not safe being gay there. Trust me, I've been there.
That's right.
No, it's and there's a way to debate issues. I mean, I think that there's we have to get back to that sort of the way that you debate an issue. I try so hard to stay off social media because it'll draw you in. I had to check a family member today that had made in my view, a defamatory comment about Charlie Kirk. And I'd met him a few times. I'm not even the biggest, that's not even my necessary flavor of the thing. But, when you sidestep a murder to make a few points, it's like,
right.
And I fact checked the particular statement they'd made. And I said, that's false. What you said is a lie. You are a liar. But bigger than that is you sidestepped a murder. Imagine defending the other side of that position and just change the faces, have it be a left-wing figure. There's a lot of left-wing figures I can't stand. I don't want to see them get murdered. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
Let's have some basic standards. I think our military allows us this constitutional framework that we have. And, we just, again, that cliche, we have to be better. We do. Can we be more, and the truth is the truth. There's something about it that's irrefutable. So we have to just try to be better. And
so you mean I can't have my truth and you can't have your truth? I'm so confused.
Moral
truth,
relativism,
right?
well, Colonel, moral relativism is problematic. And
yes, it is.
And I think we're probably like-minded there.
Yeah, Todd, you got like 30 seconds for one more question.
We got a few more minutes. Now, I knew this would be a good interview. I knew, Colonel, you would like Chris.
But I'm not really done. I could go forever. I'm big in etymology of surnames, and I'm looking at that. It's either Dutch or it's Arabic, and it's been anglicized.
If John wants to ask a question, John, you want to jump in on a question? If not, we're going to go back to the Colonel.
What is it, Christopher? What is it?
It's Dutch. It's from Holland.
Well, I said Dutch, or it could be Arabic, so I got it right. There you go.
There we go. So, John, you got any questions for Chris by chance?
Well, having been to DC, I don't know if we got time for all this, but having been to DC, I see a lot of groups that go in there with small groups going for lobby, and they really get overwhelmed by the larger groups, don't they? I mean, you get people like, in my case with trucking, it's the American Trucking Associations has the biggest lobby, and they create the biggest echo chamber. And so, do you see a lot of groups, small groups, are just getting bulldozed over constantly? And if so, what can they do to overcome that circumstance?
Well, I mean, a standard neutral answer would be having a legislative, having a lobbyist, having someone that can push this 365 days a year and be in there. I don't know. In the spring, they do big lobby days, but I think a lot of it is, I mean, look, the outsized influence are the people that they're not registered to. The Lobby Disclosure Act is a whole other thing. That's just basically, it was created to talk to about a gentleman who actually I talked to this morning, who is the most highly paid lobbyist in American history, Jack Abramoff, who, I talked to, and he's, again, some of these figures, they get kind of brought into this. Sometimes we bring things on ourselves, this, that, and the other. But the Lobby Disclosure Act is designed to kind of be transparent. You're looking at this, Todd and I are going to walk into a fundraiser with $2,500. Man, we're just buying the government, aren't we? We have a corporation or someone like a George Soros. They don't need to register because they have outsized influence. So what happens is, here's the thing that happens. When you start getting influential, that's when Congress gets uncomfortable, that's when you're having success. Because when I go up against a member of Congress, which I have a 100% success rate, and beat them, it's because I'm leveraging all these different techniques. So when people look at me on election day, it's my one day I try not to be a narcissist, where they're like, are you going to vote? And it's like, I have a lot of influence about how lawmakers vote. Like, we're programmed, again, vote, do your civic duty. How about create a lobby firm, get together a group of people, create a movement. We write some books, we influence a couple committee things, and we, and if we have too much success, the Congress will start being like, oh, we got to keep an eye on these guys. So
how is Congress responsive to protests or grassroots movements when people stand up and they create a lot of media attention and really gravitate a lot of people? Are they really responsive to that?
Yes and no. I think the problem now is we're in this age of the stupid selfie video where members of Congress all day just sit and film themselves and crosstalk with each other. So I think that they, in a way, they kind of like the raucousness because they're on film, and it's all about promoting the same idea. And it's, I interned for Don Manzullo. He gave an interview recently that I thought was really good. He said, I went to Congress because my job was to get, and I know we're coming up on the hour, is to go in here and represent these people. His first assignment, he had to work with this far left Democrat from California. He's like, man, how am I going to do this? But it was a telecom thing. It had to do with jobs and manufacturing. And they got together and they compromised and they had a bill that became law that did things for their constituents. That's how Congress is supposed to function. Now we're in this operate by emergency. It's not good for the people. And the real whose fault here? It is our fault collectively, because we can go in there with can you imagine, instead of going to a stupid No Kings rally, a dumb title that means nothing, if we went out there with 30 constitutional amendments and pen and paper and said, hey guys, here's what our government's going to be like. They'd be like, oh my God, they know what they're doing. And we could actually reform the government and create a new one, which may have to happen someday. So they're receptive, but I think an educated, what did Thomas Jefferson say? We get the government we deserve, and we need an educated citizenry. Right. With AI, there's never been a better time to learn and get information. We just have to make sure it's healthy information and keep ourselves off of this, to detox from social media, because I think it's a public health hazard. It's problematic at times.
We're really losing our country, aren't we? I mean, we're seeing it deteriorate right before our very eyes, especially with the deficit spending. This is how countries fall.
Absolutely. And I guess what Rome had 2,000 years at this rate, I think when Republicans win, we save it for a little bit longer. But then the Marxism stuff, and I'm a huge Robert Kiyosaki fan, Capitalist Manifesto. I mean, there's capitalism and there's Marxism, right? Yeah. And Marxism, the thing is, once that we go that way, we're never getting it back. And one of my hot buttons is, having been an entrepreneur and having been broke and living in my car at one point and earning over $1 million, none of that stuff happens by accident. None of that stuff happens by accident. And with socialism, it just doesn't. It just doesn't, I think you can be respectful in life.
Chris, we're going to have to cut you off. The music is playing, but we are going to have you back, sir. Thank you very
give
much
us,
for being
give us
here.
real quick. Give us a web address if you need people to reach you.
At Chris Nyweem on X, just as my name spelled, ChrisNeiweem. I have Nyweem Group. The Arsenal webpage is under construction. Always happy to hear from people and help veterans if they need assistance.
There we go. Thank you. Stick around. We'll be back after the top of the hour break.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. On Capitol Hill this evening, debate ahead of a House vote to reopen the government. Republican Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma, chair of the House Appropriations Committee, calling for passage.
The legislation before us reopens the government, restores critical services, and puts an end to the needless hardship Democrats have inflicted on the country.
House Democrats lining up against the bill because it does not extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. Arizona Democrat Adelita Grijalva officially sworn into the House on Wednesday, 7 weeks after she won a special election. Right off the bat, the freshman signed a petition to release the Epstein files. This hours after Democrats on the House Oversight Committee dropped a series of Epstein emails, including one from 2011. It shows Epstein referring to President Trump as the, quote, dog that hasn't barked. The White House says the emails prove absolutely nothing. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia producing its last circulating pennies today. This is ABC News. Two actors are diving into artificial intelligence, saying it's to amplify voices, not replace them.
It's Matthew McConaughey's signature line.
All right, all right, all right.
But the next time you hear it, it may not be McConaughey saying it. The Oscar winner now signing a deal with AI software company 11 Labs to produce a virtual replica of his voice.
My voice and I are joining 11 Labs.
You may recognize that voice as Oscar winner Michael Caine, except that wasn't him. It was his 11 Labs replica. The company now launching what it calls the Iconic Voice Marketplace, a platform where creators can request access to celebrity voices.
ABC's Sophie Flay. A California three-judge panel has denied the appeal of Tory Lanez, who was convicted in 2022 on 3 counts for firing a gun at Megan Thee Stallion. He's serving a 10-year prison sentence. There was no winner in last night's Mega Millions drawing, meaning the jackpot has grown to an estimated $965 million. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guys in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. You're just joining us. You missed our great guest early in the first hour, Chris Neiman. Anyway, Colonel, what did you think about the interview there? What do you think about the guest?
Well, it's fantastic, really engaging. Interesting to see someone here in the States that has a little background with Africa as well. So that was interesting. And it was also interesting to get a peek into the lobbying process because, in general, much of the public looks down on lobbyists and have a negative view of lobbyists. We didn't really get much into that because he gave some really detailed answers to some of the questions, which were very informative. But I'm sure we could have explored that for a long time. I mean, you see, I wasn't trying to, but I bogarted most of the time.
Right.
It just his answers were quite thorough. So yeah, I think it's fantastic and it's interesting. We should have him back on. We can narrow a topic down and focus on the topic next time that really will keep I think this kept the audience's interest. Certainly kept my interest, but I think we can do it again maybe sometime in the new year.
I think it was appropriate though. You guys talked a lot about veterans and such, and the day after Veterans Day, we didn't get to do a show on Veterans Day, so it seemed fitting for the time. And by the way, for the sake of saying so, I've got to acknowledge that no, I did not serve because he said the four of us.
Yeah, no, I heard him say
I
that.
don't want anybody thinking I'm going for stolen valor here.
There's no stolen valor here. So. John's always been honest about that. No, I did catch him say that, but I didn't want to break his rhythm because he already had two senior moments. I didn't want to have a third.
Exactly. You don't want to interrupt the guy just to clarify that, but just the same.
Right. Absolutely. So what do you think about the last pennies out of the Philadelphia Mint? At what point are they going to be worth more than just a penny?
Well, I can't say that I'm happy about this. I understand why they're doing it, but it actually cost us more money to make pennies than they get for them. So I understand why they're doing it. It's a shame, but I mean, pretty soon you could say the same thing about nickels,
Oh, sure.
Yeah. They're mostly not nickel. They're mostly zinc, just like the pennies. So, it's the penny is when the dollar actually had some worth and 100 cents actually meant something. I mean, my great grandfather, my great grandfather, excuse me. My great grandfather worked for the Baltimore Ohio Railroad for 36 years, and he made 36 cents a week at one point. 36 cents. Wow. So there was a penny in his paycheck, literally. Right. And that was a big deal. So it's a shame to see it go. But I mean, for as long as we know, retailers have used it to, trick the mind. $9.99. You mean $10?
Right.
But so I guess we won't see that anymore at some point. But I'm more concerned the disappearance of penny with an effort to remove paper currency. There's a move afoot to remove paper currency and force people to use credit cards. Not everybody qualifies for a credit card. And this is quite annoying. In the United States, by law, you must accept our currency. It's legal tender for all purchases. Yet we have people breaking the law all over the place, and now they're talking about having another federal law for it, but it's not necessary. The money is issued and you're supposed to accept it. But I can tell you an example of this. I was in New Jersey at the Newark airport a couple of years ago, and I was hungry. It was late. I was waiting for my flight, and every place I went only took credit cards. Well, I didn't want to use my credit card. And eventually I had to use my credit card to buy something. First off, the prices are outrageous. Second, you could only purchase things with a credit card. Well, not everybody has a credit card. What about a woman who's just gone through a divorce? Or someone who is low income and doesn't have the money, or someone has bad credit because they went bankrupt. Maybe they had a massive medical bill, cancer in the family. Right. They had to pay it out of pocket because of Obama's Unaffordable Care Act. They don't have health insurance anymore. So they had to, and the expiration of the subsidies, now they have to pay out of pocket. They're bankrupt. So they file for bankruptcy. They don't have a credit card. They have no credit rating. So what are they supposed to do? Starve? If a single mother comes here with 3 kids to the airport, she can't feed her kids because she doesn't have a credit card. It's ridiculous.
I think we're seeing a rapid movement towards digital currency, and I think that's the issue here, isn't it? That the Biden administration had put together a committee to do research and migrating that way, and we're seeing the Trump administration is no different, really. He would like to prefer to move to digital currency. He seems to appreciate a lot about technologies. So Malcolm here does ask how far behind is nickels and dimes, and I think the nickel just not replaced the penny. I think that is your penny.
Right,
now.
It's on the chopping block.
It'll stagger, right?
Right.
Well, look, I mean, Trump may be in favor, but he's also in favor of other dumb ideas like getting rid of daylight savings time.
Some people don't think it's that dumb.
I think it's a dumb idea. It serves a very valuable purpose. The number of traffic accidents dramatically declined after the imposition of daylight savings time because of the daylight in the morning when people are not as alert as they should be going to work. And in addition to that, the energy savings is huge that we save.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think that's not a fully formed opinion on the part of the president. And like I've said, and we've said on here, when we disagree with the president, we'll point it out. And I disagree on both those issues. I also disagree on the move towards digital currency. Digital currency can be manipulated. It can be stolen without your knowledge.
Right.
You can be bankrupted overnight. Your bank account be cleared out. A magnet could wipe out your card and erase everything on it. It's not thought through.
And for
Right.
those
Plus
who
they
still appreciate privacy in the day and age when it's pretty much non-existent, it has become a privacy issue because they can track all your spendings.
Exactly. That's this other thing. And you can hunt people down very easily. Whereas with cash, you have anonymity and you have ubiquitous use of the cash. You can use it all over. I don't think it's really well thought through. And if there's a cost to having currency, then there's a cost to having currency. It's part of commerce. There's also cost to using credit cards, servers, data centers, all the staff that have to answer when cards are stolen, cards replaced, mailing cards, digital card. There's a whole infrastructure of tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars behind credit cards and behind digital payments that's far more expensive than printing currency. And that's what they ignore.
So years ago, they had what was called the Liberty Dollar, and the government pretty much put him out of business because they said he was counterfeit, used too much government identity, like he called it the dollar instead of calling it something else. And so they confiscated everything, arrested him. He spent some time in jail over the matter, and those dollars no longer exist unless for novelty, for trading and stuff, or collecting. However, now they do have what's called a gold backs. What do you guys think about alternative currencies?
What, like crypto?
No, paper.
No, I'm not a fan of alternative currencies. That becomes a mess. We've seen this movie before. It was when the country first formed, and every state had its own currency. And inside states, banks issued their own currency. And so it becomes very problematic. And then the deal with the dollar is that, and we've proven this with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, unfortunately, is that the U.S. government will pay its debts because the Constitution requires us to. And therefore, the full faith and confidence of the dollar is because it has no value. There's no gold backing it. There's no precious metals backing it. It's not like the old days before Nixon took us off the gold standard. You could take, the dollar amount, give it to the Federal Reserve and say, give me gold,
Right.
That's what they could do. At least governments could do that. And individuals could do it for a time, but not anymore. No, it's fiat currency. And it's based on the concept that people accept it based on their confidence in the government. But then anything used for currency, whether it's cowrie beads or it's gold or it's silver, is also based on that. But I'm not into alternative.
So it's to my understanding with the gold backs, like the Liberty Dollar, they actually weave gold into the dollar of the value of the dollar. So you do actually have a dollar's worth of value of gold within that bill.
Not when the price of gold declines.
Well, that's why, and that's why on the bill it says negotiable.
Okay, well,
of course.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Gold is a commodity, and it's a precious commodity. But if you take all the gold ever mined in the history of humankind, I understand it fits in like 8 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Yeah, it's not a lot. If you think about Olympic-sized swimming pools, I mean, if you could put water in your swimming, that's a lot of water. But all of a sudden, you think about all this gold over the course of centuries of human existence. That's not a lot of gold all of a sudden.
I think they say the majority of the world's gold is at the bottom of the ocean. So if we can just figure out how to dredge so deep, we might actually be able to get it. But they might be talking about the Bering Sea out there where they dredge out there too.
Right.
I thought that was for crabs, the Bering Sea.
Yeah, a lot of snow crabs and such out there, but fishing too. But yeah, they they do have some gold mining and stuff where they got these small boats and stuff with the sluices and where they pump the sand up.
Yeah, no, I've seen that Bering Sea Gold. I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Discovery
Fun
Channel
show,
has this.
actually. Yeah.
Well, I was hearing the other day we were talking about gold and precious metals and diamonds and all these things, and Dr. Tyson was talking about, think about what's actually more rare and we take for granted is wood. Because it's so abundant on Earth. He said, but in the universe, that's so rare. We don't even know where it exists. He's like, there's planets that's made of diamonds. There's planets and comets or whatever made of gold, but there's no wood anywhere else except for right here.
Not that we know of.
That you know of.
Well, yeah, who knows what kind of life lives
It's
in
just
other
kind of
planets.
interesting the way you think of things,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's perspective.
Right,
absolutely. No, as far as this stuff, alternative currencies, look at this crypto.
Yeah.
So when they talk about Bitcoin, what do they always reference its value to?
The market.
The dollar. Yeah.
Not the market, the dollar.
Dollar. Yeah.
Now that should be very.
Okay. Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
One Bitcoin is worth 60,000 or whatever it is.
It's worth
exactly.
so many dollars.
So that should tell you all you need to know. Okay. If they reference, it's not like they say it's against the yen or it's against gold or it's against, if they were telling us that 1 Bitcoin was worth, 1 ton of gold, okay. But they're not. They reference it to the dollar. Why? Because that's a tacit admission that the dollar is not going away and that the Bitcoin, the value that everybody puts on it is tied to the dollar in one way or another. Bottom line.
Interesting. Yep, that's right.
What
Very true.
gives Bitcoin any value? I'm still having a hard time with that. What,
It's limited availability. It's limited
Yeah, so
availability.
it creates demand,
and
but-
it's purported security that you can't hack it. But if you've worked at the National Security Agency with supercomputers, you might dispute that. It just takes a matter of time.
I don't see any value in Bitcoin.
The concept of blockchain is something that people think is impregnable. Nothing is impregnable if humans are
No.
trust me.
No.
Yeah.
That's true. So is the shutdown going to happen, or is it going to come to an end tonight, or what have we
Well,
heard?
I don't know, Todd, because they had a procedural vote to go with the vote for this. So they had to vote, are we going to vote? It was 213 to 209, so not every member of House voted. It passed in a simple majority. Republicans held their ground, and so it goes to another vote tonight. So I don't know if they voted. When we went on air, they had not voted yet, so I hadn't checked because I was so enthralled by the conversation that I never chance to check.
I thought Sunday it was over. I thought they had voted. It was going to be over, and I guess not.
The Senate kicked. Yeah.
No, that's okay. First off, it wasn't over Sunday because Sunday, all the Senate did. I had to explain this to my viewers on my program. What, because a lot of them are overseas, so they don't know the system. Heck, a lot of Americans don't know the system. But Sunday, what happened is that in order to get this measure on the floor, you had to have a cloture vote. And the cloture vote, you need 60 people to agree to vote on it. So they got the 8 Democrats after they lost Rand Paul, and they got the 60, which was the votes they needed under the filibuster rule. So they got cloture, which means now they can put the vote on the floor. They couldn't do it until then. So they put the vote on the floor Monday. They voted for it. Now it goes to the House. The House is showing up, coming back to town on Tuesday because they're all out screwing off. And then today, this afternoon, late this afternoon, before 6:30, about 6 o'clock, they voted on it, a procedural vote to go forward. Now they're supposed to vote this evening. I don't know the current state of it. I should probably look online before I go to bed tonight. And they probably will approve it, but then it must go to the president's desk. That said, it's a very real possibility the president will sign it tonight. That said, this just gets us to the end of January, kicks a can down the road. That's
right.
It.
And so we're back to this point come January timeframe, right?
Correct. And in the meantime, they've weaseled 3 lines of the budget to be paid the rest of the year. I believe their defense, and then the aviation and the Department of Agriculture for food stamps. I believe I stand for correction on that. But those 3 budgets will be approved through the fiscal year at the current spending rate. So they won't shut down and they'll be paid. So I mean, look, this is not ideal, but the Democrats can wear this millstone. They created this mess. It's their tar baby. They earned it. And it's comical to see these idiots like some, special election just elected some Democrat into Congress who's filling a vacant seat. And she's like, well, this president who stole food from hungry people. No, the president didn't. So let's recap that very quickly before I take a pause here and catch a breath. The Democrats froze spending by not approving a cloture or not approving a continuous resolution.
Right.
13 times during the Biden administration, they signed a continuing resolution along with Republicans to continue the government. So they never had a budget in those 4 years. 14 times they voted down the exact same bill, flat spending bill. Now we have a non-flat spending bill that gives them some what they want, and they go along with them. But here's the thing. They said Trump has to feed people, but the federal government has no authority to spend money to give food stamps out. So the argument was, well, they can use contingency funds that are in the Department of Agriculture. That's not what they're for. The contingency funds in the Department of Agriculture are for natural disasters or earthquakes or the Soviet Union attack us or something like that. It's not to make payments in what should come out of the regular appropriations. So it's illegal for the president to use that money to pay for food stamps. Yet they said he was starving people because he wouldn't use that money. Then a federal judge violating the law ordered the Trump administration to make those payments in violation of federal law and of the Constitution. So Trump, then they went because what's going to happen is this: if he spent that money, if he doesn't spend, he's evil. If he spends it, see, he's lawless. He just broke the law. And that's what they were trying to do. They put him in a Joseph Heller catch-22 situation. And so now the Supreme Court has said that the Trump administration cannot spend that money. It's against the Constitution. And so that's where we're at. But they're still blaming Trump, but it's the Democrats who didn't vote. So we will get resumption of food stamps probably by tomorrow morning if the president signs this tonight. And that's kind of where we're at. But the Democrats are trying to blame Trump, and all the media, including the Washington Times, going around talking about how this was a landmark election for the Democrats. What are you people smoking? Who thought in their right mind that the Virginia was going to vote for a black woman? All these Democrats are racist. We knew they wouldn't vote for a black woman. Oh, did I say that out loud? I think I said it out loud.
Right. But it's funny is there are parts of Virginia that voted for the black woman, Winsome Sears, by the way. It is the places that they make fun of, the Southwest Virginia, the western part of Virginia.
The toothless, uneducated, white racists. They're the ones who voted for
them the racists, but they're the ones who overwhelmingly voted for her, for crying out loud. Not only this go around, but whenever she ran for lieutenant governor.
But the leftist whites, the blacks, and the brown folks that live in Loudoun County and Montgomery, or those counties right along the border there, they voted for the white lady. They didn't vote for the black lady. But Virginia was never going to go for Winsome Sears, even though she was an ideal candidate, a former Marine. And then New Jersey, Chitterelli had his chance last time. He came close, didn't get there. This time wasn't even close. So who thought New Jersey was going to go? There's no way. The bedroom communities of Northern Virginia made the decisive impact on that election and won it in Virginia. The bedroom communities of Manhattan on the other side of the Hudson River made the decisive impact and turned this. And that's full of immigrants and people of color and a bunch of wackadoodles on top of that. And then New York City, who in the right mind thought that Mamdani wasn't going to win? The fact that he only got 50% in an election year in which only about 25 or 30% of the electorate showed up is a much more telling story to me. And then Proposition 50 out in California, I mean, most Republicans are leaving the state. So their votes aren't there anymore. They're now in Idaho and Utah and California. I mean, in Texas and Florida, not California. So, I mean, that was a landmark election for the Democrats. They don't have the wind at their back. Those were expected wins. But the media are trying to play this up as if they've got a big victory here. They don't have a big victory here. I mean, it's just a false analysis.
No, but it's funny is they underperform the expectations. So to say that it's a big win for them is not the truth at all. They lost. They lost votes. Exactly.
Virginia stopped being a conservative state some time ago. They call it a purple state. It's not even a purple state anymore. It's a blue state. Let's be honest.
Right. You have, a few years ago, whenever the current governor won, it was an uproar because of all the school board issues. Plus, you had COVID. So they had a lot of protest votes that came out as well.
Well, also, it was Terry McAuliffe running again, and people detest him.
Yeah, it was enough of him. Yeah, people had enough of Terry McAuliffe.
Yeah, it was like when Clarence Glendening finished his time, and then his lieutenant governor ran against Bob Ehrlich. Bob Ehrlich won the state because of his incredible campaign and got just enough votes. But also, people were tired. She got blamed unfairly. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. She got blamed for Glendening, who was an obnoxious rogue who had an open affair while he was governor, and it was just flaunting it. It was just, I mean, having an affair, that's whatever, but he was flaunting it, and it was a very unseemly and salacious situation, and unfairly to Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, it kind of stuck to her. But you know what? I don't care. Another Kennedy we don't need. And also, she was a terrible candidate. Bob Ehrlich was a fantastic governor of Maryland. Unfortunately, he had a 63% approval rating amongst all voters on the eve of the election and lost the election to Martin O'Malley. Do you know why? Because he was a Republican. That's the only reason he lost. People weren't dissatisfied with him, but they voted for the Democrat, who promptly went in and squandered the entire $2 billion surplus that Ehrlich had built up in the Treasury, and then put the state of Maryland $4 billion more in debt and raised taxes on top of that. Thank you, Democrats and stupid voters in Maryland.
Well, there you go, John. Here's this out of the Granite State, and I've never heard of this publication. I saw it online today. It's the Granite Eagle. I don't know where that comes from or whether it's just online. But there's a person running for the 1st Congressional District there, Elizabeth Girard. And the headline says, Girard's congressional relaunch marked by coordinated AI social media push. And, of course, it says Elizabeth Girard, Republican from Somersworth, relaunched her campaign for New Hampshire's 1st Congressional District this week, drawing attention online, but not necessarily from New Hampshire. Let me go to this first paragraph. It says, within hours of her campaign's announcement, a series of posts appeared on X from a range of right-leaning or pro-Trump accounts. Each post praised Girard in nearly identical language, describing her as a Trump Republican, America First patriot, or warrior, et cetera, and a lot of the language is the same. So it looks like this person, basically got a bunch of AI bots to basically help her relaunch her campaign and make her relevant there. Are you hearing anything about that up there where you're at, or is this
you're giving me news? I haven't heard this one yet, but
okay.
My mind, when you're telling me this, though, my mind's going in a certain direction. There is a gentleman by the way of Network Chuck on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard him, but check him out if you like technology. So since I've been starting to get into these AIs and AI bots and stuff like that, I spend a lot of time talking to different bots and getting to understand how AI works, and started looking at some stuff online. Now, Network Chuck was showing, if you know how to use Terminal and say Ubuntu, you can take and solicit these bots to do work for you. So like, say if he wants to put together a show, he'll have a bot like, say, Claude. Claude seems to be his favorite. And he'll start having to do certain things like writing and things like that. But he'll also have Claude go out and solicit other agents. And so he'll have 4 or 5 different bots on one terminal doing all different sorts of work. So they're doing work rather rapidly and putting something together at a rapid pace because they're coordinating. You can
Okay.
get these guys in service. It's like running a team. Like if you have your own little company or something, you can run these teams. And it sounds to me like she has a tech guy or something that puts together all these bots and they're making comments and stuff on her social media, trying to build her up like they're individual
Right.
persons. When in fact, it's fraudulent. Is what it
Right.
is. I hate to say it because she sounds like she's a Republican, and I hate
She
to say
is.
Republicans doing this,
Right.
but to me it sounds kind of fraudulent, and I find it a little bit on the concerning side.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I
a lot
just
on the
saw that.
concerning side.
I just saw that today, but I was like, wonder if you heard anything about it. And of course, if this is some sort of scandal that's going on over in the first district, maybe we can get somebody from that area who wants to come on and talk about it. I just thought about throwing it out there.
I think I got to do my due diligence and check into this, Todd, and
All
see what's
right.
really going on. I
All
mean,
right.
it sounds interesting to me, and I don't mean to falsely accuse her because I don't know anything what she's doing,
Right.
but it sounds interesting, and at least if nothing else, give her a chance to explain what's going on if it looks that way.
Right. That's a good idea. Maybe we reach out, or maybe have you reach out to the campaign or her directly and see if we can get her on as a guest if she wanted to defend herself or talk about it in more, or if somebody knows something out there, maybe they want to call in to the show or let us know more.
And I do believe our signal may be reaching somewhat into the first district, maybe not real deep, but somewhat
Right.
in there. So it might be good for her, at least to explain it.
Thought it'd be interesting. Just throw it out there, see what happens. Right. So I'm looking at headlines here. I don't see that anything has changed as far as voting to keep get the government back open. So nothing as of yet from what I'm seeing. So there we go.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to vote tonight. I don't know if they're going to vote. I would assume they are, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, just looking. Oh, here we go. There's a new top Catholic bishop, no communion for pro-abortion politicos. So if you're a politico looking to get some sort of communion, yeah, he says no go. Coakley, Archbishop of Oklahoma City, is going to deny anybody who's pro-abortion communion. So interesting. So I mean, you think about people like Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, all those types who receive communion on a regular basis when the popes would come to town, to DC or what have you. I guess he's going to say no to that. I like the idea, right? I thought the church was against abortion, right? It's my thought anyway.
Usually
right?
they are.
Right.
I mean, the Christian church is I mean, you can't say the church, right? Because there's different.
No, I'm saying that the Catholic Church in this context,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, Catholic Church was always staunch against it, as far as I know.
Right. But you got to think about, you had these politicos like Nancy Pelosi, who was Catholic, Joe Biden, and who would, regularly meet. Obviously, I get it. You're as a government official, you're meeting with the Pope from that standpoint. But at the same time, a lot of times they would receive communion or a blessing or whatever from them. And I'm like, I thought that was against the church's doctrine.
Well, wasn't there a time when the Pope refused? It said that they weren't allowed, because they can do that. They can basically ostracize their parishioners for inappropriate behaviors if they're bringing poor conduct on the congregation or. So I thought there was a time that he was, and I thought it had something to do with Pelosi or somebody up there high up about some of her behaviors, her public behaviors.
Right, absolutely. So here's another headline, and this is a biographer. This is from Fox News. Biographer urged Epstein to bash Trump for political cover in newly released emails. Michael Wolff suggested anti-Trump messaging could repair sex traffickers' public image in 2016 exchanges, according to released emails. I'm like, how sick is somebody that they're trying to help you regain your reputation by bashing Trump? I'm like, you peddle in the flesh, my friend, especially for underage girls and human trafficking. No amount of bashing one political figure, even if it's Obama or Hitler, I don't care, is going to help repair your image here, my friend.
There's been a lot going around with the left on Trump and Epstein saying Trump was what do you call him? The non-barking dog of.
Yeah. What was that? What was that all about exactly?
So basically the left is trying to attack Trump and align Trump because this whole thing that went down with Trump and Bondi apparently didn't about face, according to most people, and said there's nothing there. There's nothing to investigate. Of course, all that data and stuff was within the Biden administration. For all we know, they destroyed evidence. We don't know what's going on. We're just out here on the outside. But so now they're trying to say Trump must be guilty of something. He's trying to hide his own guilt. So now they're coming out recently with this news that Trump is somehow aligned with Epstein in the past and spent hours with some girl or something like that. That Epstein had actually made emails or comments to somebody regarding such matters. Like they're trying to hold Trump in a negative light. I want to point out to people, human trafficking wasn't a great consideration to Congress. I mean, they made some laws, and they did put the Department of Homeland Security in charge of things. What's that blue something where you can call in for make reports and things like that? But there was no great effort, no great interest that I've really seen until Trump came into office as 45. Then you started seeing some real and true action against human trafficking. Trump brought forth a lot of force and a lot of effort to fight human trafficking, and now they're trying to impose this idea that he was involved in soliciting girls and stuff with Epstein, and it's nonsense. That's what it is. It's absolute and total nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, the reason why Epstein got arrested is because Epstein ran in Trump circles. He knew what Epstein did, and in my personal opinion, I think Trump's pretty much the guy who looked at the DHS or the FBI and said, "You need to investigate that guy. I'll give you some inside scoops."
I have an update here, guys. Moments ago, the vote was concluded. The vote was 222 to 209 to concur on the Senate amendment. Therefore, it will go to the president's desk here in a few minutes as soon as they finish the paperwork. 216 Republicans voted in the affirmative. 2 voted against the bill. 6 Democrats crossed the aisle to vote with the Republicans. 207 demon rats voted against continuing the government. Final count was 222 to 209. The bill goes to the president's desk for signature. We have a continuing resolution that should be signed tonight. The government should be able to open tomorrow.
So the issue is, why do we have to keep going through these struggles? I mean, why does this keep
Because
happening?
we have idiots in Congress who can't pass a budget. And this has been a recurring problem for over 30 years. You know, it's ironic. When I was in Liberia, the government of Liberia, which was nascent, it was brand new. They just rebuilt the government after the Civil War. And our politicians and our diplomats had the audacity to chide the Liberian government because they were 14 days past the end of their fiscal year without a budget. And I'm thinking, we're 14 years past the fiscal year. We haven't got a budget. And you're actually criticizing Liberians. About a week later, they had a budget. I'm like, wow, they got a budget within 3 weeks. Here I am. I haven't seen a budget approved on time in 40 years. You know, that's the problem.
This year they approved some sort of budget, but they never really fully approve a budget. And that's why we keep having these continuous resolutions are like, hey, this emergency popped up and we got to come up with some emergency funds we didn't account for during our budgeting. That's what a continued resolution is for, as far as I know. But they're using the continued CRs simply to budget throughout the year continuously.
Yeah, it's not a normal funding mechanism.
Financial jams. So do they use this for like leverage? They do it on purpose, try not to have a balanced budget. So
no, they're morons. That's the bottom line. This is what you get when you vote for shyster lawyers and better dressed used car salesmen. That's what you get. This is what we vote for. We are to blame for our governance.
Sure.
We elected the Jasmine Crockett's and the Chucky Schumers and the Mitch McConnells who are 85,000 years old and incontinent. I mean, it's our fault. Nancy Pelosi, a scam artist who's made hundreds of millions of dollars off of insider trading. We elected her, not me, but idiots in San Francisco.
No, right.
We are to blame, the American public.
I didn't know Chuck Schumer was the crypt keeper. Do you know the exact date he was born at 85,000 years ago?
Well, I was close at 87,000. I was rounded down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, glad Nancy Pelosi not going to run, but her net worth increased. What is something like 17,000% since she came into office or something? I mean, nobody's wealth in history has increased like hers, except for maybe some billionaire. But even their percentage, you can at least account from where they got their money. Like, say somebody like I don't know, just pick a random billionaire. We know where they got their money from. Nancy Pelosi, you got it from insider trading. You didn't create anything.
They
you ran no business.
They passed the Stock Act in 2012. They already had laws against inside trading in Congress, and the Stock Act was about disclosures and stuff like that, which many of them just violate this disclosure laws and take the fines. It's only a couple $100 or something. And the thing about the Stock Act is it doesn't prevent them from becoming advisors to trading groups.
Sure.
So it kind of hides where their money's being traded and stuff, and they're advising how it should be traded, which is to a greater benefit to the group, I suppose. But yeah, so they kind of got their little loophole, and that's how she gets around it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So government reopens tomorrow.
Possibly. President's got to sign it. I don't see a reason why I won't sign it, but yes.
Right.
So how much debt is this going to give us on top of the 38 trillion we already have?
Well, what's interesting is that we only spent we didn't spend about $55 billion the past 40 days. So and money. I mean, we spent plenty of money, but that's money we did spend. It was discretionary. So that's $55 billion we'll save this year. Some of that will be paid in back salary, but anyway. Well, I don't know what it adds in debt. It pretty much, I guess, continues the debt. Depends on what the income is of the government because it continues spending at present levels. So until the end of January. But for the other three segments of the budget, it continues throughout the year. So we were 1.8 trillion in debt, I think, last year under Biden's last year. And so, who knows where we'll be. But we've got about 500 billion in tariff revenue that we didn't have last year. So that should reduce it.
So we got to look at when Trump ends this year, that's Biden's debt. A lot of people misunderstand that. They think the first year of the president is the president's debt, but Trump didn't budget this year.
All right. Yeah, well, it looks like the White House is going to sign it tonight at 9:45. Just so you know, 9:45 Eastern. He will sign it.
Say again. I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the president, the White House just put out that he will sign it tonight at 9:45 Eastern. So,
okay, there you go. 9:45. That's perfect.
There you go. So nobody can complain anymore, right? At this point, right?
Well, it's going to be good news for a lot of people, particularly around the world who are waiting for the U.S. government to get back on track here, and specifically for the South African refugees who are waiting to come over. Now they can come to America. And for me, once again, I'm just going to say that, I think at some point I'm just going to have a migraine, or as the British like to say, a migraine, from being right all the time, always being correct. People tried to sharpshoot me and tell me that I know what I was talking about, and I explained why the refugees couldn't come over. I said it's because there's no one to process them. People are on furlough. We don't have enough people there. Some people work in the cases, but how come they're still doing? Well, we have contractors that have multi-year contracts, and they're performing services. They're being paid under the contract. It's money already allocated. It's already there. Right. It just gets dispersed. So they can continue to work to process refugees for screening and medical and all that, but they can't come to the States because there's no one to take them to the airport that's an American official, and there's no one to be on this end to receive them, and no one to process in between. And I was told that no, it's a presidential determination. I said, well, that isn't germane. That needs to be done, but that's not the holdup. The holdup is the government shutdown. Now the government shutdown's over. Not a single refugee has come here since September 26th, and now they'll start coming. At what point, I don't know. I did caution people it could take 10 to 12 days, but I think that they were prudent. I get indications that what they did is they booked travel just in case the government reopened. So if people have a ticket for next week, they may still be coming next week. So we could have people coming over very quickly. So get ready for that, folks. South African refugees are coming back over to the States here very soon.
So a lot of people have concerns with immigration that people don't really want to assimilate when they get here. They'd rather we assimilate to them. And so how do South Africans feel about this when they're coming here? I'm thinking they're probably pretty happy. This is an opportunity for them, and they're looking for assimilation. They want to become Americans.
Well, first off, let me go back to the first point there. If people come to America as immigrants, not refugees, but people come to America as immigrants and they expect us to change our ways, that's not immigration. That's colonization.
Colonization, yep.
They're trying to colonize us. If they're, seeing this American imam saying that, people who are Islamophobic, don't worry about them because all their children will be Muslims. Well, that's not assimilation. That's an effort to colonize our country with a faith that only a small number of Americans share. But the South Africans, the South Africans, that's I just saw a story from Maine, from a Refugee Assistance Center that was published yesterday talking about, well, there's only 50 of them coming. There aren't the reason they say this is they already have small communities, or well, not that small, of Somalis and Congolese. They've already been located there. So what they do is put the refugees near them, so they have like their own little ghetto. No, it's not their own ghetto. So they have their own little support base of people who are like-minded, which makes it easier for them not to learn English, not to adapt our ways, not to accept our society. And I disagree with it. Put the refugees somewhere and give them assistance, and then they better make it on their own. That's how it should do it. That's what's going to happen with South Africans. And they were kind of like, we're worried the South Africans, there's only a small number of them coming over, and 50 of them, we can't put them in communities, so we're going to put them in places by themselves. Well, they're South African. They come from a country with 12 official languages. Every South African speaks some English, even if they're not fluent in it. Right. Relax. They come from a country that has electricity, that has immunizations, that has automobiles, that has highways and bridges. They may be falling apart, but they still have them. And these people will be fine. You don't need to worry about it. All you need to do is make sure that you don't drop someone in a town without a house, without food, without a social security card, and things like that. Help them get those things started. And after a couple months, they'll be self-starters and they'll make it all happen. I already know of at least 2 of the refugees I've interviewed are making 6-figure incomes after only been here for 3 or 4 months. I know others who are very successful at farming already. I know couples who've moved for different parts of the country for job offers, a couple that moved from Iowa on their own, leave the refugee support behind, moving to Kentucky to run a poultry farm. They're doing fantastic. And the list goes on and on. Those who've not done well are a few who are insular, who didn't do well in South Africa. And we brought them over here. And unfortunately, they let them go to places where they shouldn't let them go because they listen to what they want instead of what the government should have decided. Anyway, so we've had a couple cases, but nobody's starving. Nobody's going hungry. Refugees don't starve. I mean, I've been to Twin Falls, Idaho, and Chobani, which has a massive yogurt factory out there built by a Turkish immigrant to this country. And he hires hundreds of refugees. I mean, it's like the United Nations. I was there for, Family Day. The timing was perfect. I happened to be in Twin Falls during Family Day for Chobani, and I was invited to go there because two of the refugees from South Africa, one of them actually works there. And I went there for Family Day, and like I said, it's like I mean, there's people in Abayas here. There's Tanzanians, there's Burundians. I talked to a guy from Burundi in line. I'm waiting to get on up because you couldn't take your car there. You had to take the bus from the parking lot. And so I talked to this guy from Burundi. He's got his whole family there. It's so this nonsense about the South Africans not being able to adapt is just that they'll be fine.
I thought so too. And in regard to my question, I kind of already knew the answer to the question, and people here are confirming it here in the comments where I don't want to butcher names. So, sorry if I don't say your name, but I'll be coming to America to become American. That's, type of answers I would expect.
Right.
If we get the opportunity to be approved for the refugee program to the U.S., we'll be proud American patriots. That's what I'm
nice.
talking about.
There we go. There. Good deal. Well, hopefully you get your opportunity for sure.
Not asking anybody to drop their culture or anything, but
so you don't want to come in and impose Sharia on me? Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, like I say, nobody expects anybody to drop their culture or anything. I mean, if you come from a different place, you're going to have your own little nuances and things like that.
Sure.
If people speak Spanish, they speak Spanish. If they want to speak Spanish in the home, they should be allowed to. If they want to go in the streets and speak Spanish to one another, they should be allowed to. It's not an issue. The issue is just when they demand that we cater to them or assimilate to them, and we've seen that here in the United States, and it becomes concerning because the left defends it so hard and says we should. It's like, maybe we should. Like you said, Chris, it's colonizing. It's nonsense.
If I want to live in an environment where I'm speaking Spanish and I want to enjoy my life and be part of that and immerse myself in the culture, I will move to Chile. But I'm not moving to Chile. I'm living in America. I speak 6 languages, learn our language, or hit the road, Jack. It's comical because I had a voter as a judge, an assisted voter. And this is a story that I'm okay with because the guy needed assistance because he wasn't sure he could understand the ballot fully in English. He immigrated here legally. His daughter was born here, and she's a teenager. I won't give him a free pass because he should have been able to understand English better by now, but he speaks English well enough, but he wasn't sure he was comfortable. So out of abundance of caution, he asked if he could be an assisted voter. So his daughter came, I sat down and I explained everything to him and he understood it. And then he had 1 or 2 questions and then she explained what I said in Spanish. And I know enough Spanish that she explained it correctly. But when he finished voting, I was explaining to him how we're putting it in the envelope here and what's going on. Then he spoke English to me because he felt more comfortable. I'll give someone a free pass like that. That guy's made an effort. He could make a better effort here, but he's made an effort. But people who come here and we're forced to put ballots in Hmong, or we're forced to put ballots in Vietnamese, we're forced to put ballots in Mandarin or in Spanish. That's nonsense.
No.
How can you be American and not speak the language of our land? And I don't want to hear this more multicultural. That's nonsense. We made a conscious decision not to have a national language, but to adopt English as our informal language. And now it is the formal language of our government, at least. Thank you, Trump, for that. But it's just absolutely insane. First off, you can't vote unless you're an American citizen. You can't become an American citizen with the exception of having served in the military for 3 years honorably, then you can apply. So nobody becomes a citizen in less than 3 years. It's usually 4 years or more. Most people, it's 5 to 11 years before they become a citizen. If you've been here 5 to 11 years and you don't speak English, get the hell out. You have no business being here. I'm sorry. Does that offend you? Good.
Right. Well, check out this headline from Newsmax. Trans members of the Air Force sues over losing retirement pay. A group of 17 transgender member of the Air Force, I would say former members, is suing the U.S. government over what they say is the military's unlawful revocation of their early retirement pension and benefits. The lawsuit filed in federal court Monday comes several months after the Air Force confirmed that it would deny all transgender service members who have served between 15 and 18 years the option to retire early and would instead separate them without retirement benefits. Colonel, what are your thoughts on this predicament for these folks?
Say that again. Sorry, I had a hiccup on my broadcast.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So basically 17 transgenders that are being.
Oh, yeah, 17 transgenders. So that's, there was a hiccup here. I thought I missed part. All right. So, I think that's utter nonsense. I mean, look, this is a malicious lawsuit. It's a nuisance lawsuit. It's a attention-getting lawsuit. I don't think there's any merit to it. Without knowing all the facts in the case, it just seems to me one that's just a nuisance lawsuit. What do you think?
Yeah, so 15 to 18 years, it's one of those things, like, they were so close, but if the military is not offering an early retirement, then sorry, it's not an option for you. If you're being separated for violating rules, regulations, policies, laws, whatever, that's just the name of the game. Sorry,
Well, I
sorry.
mean, there's another option. Take your dress off.
Right, absolutely. Stop being that way, and most of them are probably doing it for some sort of attention, I'm sure.
Look, I mean, first off, I mean, this is a hard one to have empathy on because it was taken to such extremes. We have a lieutenant colonel wearing a skirt with pierced earrings, with
Right.
a masculine voice, not going through sexual reassignment surgery after having been in the military for 16 years, and that completely undermined confidence in the chain of command. It completely confused soldiers, and we have transgender in the military who are demanding that people be prosecuted on the Uniform Code of Military Justice for misgendering them. I mean, this is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Today, your commander is a man, and a week later he comes back from leave and he's wearing a dress, and all he did was go to his physician and say, "I feel like a woman." And by the way, that's all you had to do. That's all you had to do
Right.
until Trump stopped that. You
Right.
didn't have to have a psychological evaluation. You didn't have to be on hormone therapy. You didn't have to have sexual reassignment surgery. All you had to do is say, "I feel that I'm the wrong gender." And then your primary care physician in the military had to put that in your record. And then they had to contact your commander and say that this person is now a man or a woman. That's just utter nonsense. And it was
Right.
open to such abuse. And unfortunately for genuine transgenders, for true transgender out there, most of whom aren't in the military, because let's be honest, until recently, this was classified as a mental illness.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was a bar to enlistment. Now,
Sure.
people are going to say, but people hid this. Yeah, okay, fine. Then, you can't do 2 years. You can't suck it up. I had to keep my mouth shut about politics for 36 years. Do you think that was fun? I was ready to explode after 36 years of what I put up with.
So to quote Shania Twain, the only thing you'd have to do is say, "Man, I feel like a
Feel like a
woman."
woman.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's funny. That song came to mind for me too. Then I started thinking,
Right.
what was that song about? Natural Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now.
Seriously, you trying to tip that, Todd?
You make me. Yeah. All right. So Venezuela mobilizes forces as U.S. carrier enters Caribbean, escalating tensions. Oh, Venezuela has ordered a massive military mobilization after the arrival of U.S. aircraft carrier strike group in the Caribbean, escalating tensions amid President Donald Trump's expanded war on drugs trafficking in the region. Defense Minister Vladimir Padronov Lopez announced Monday that almost 200,000 troops had been placed on full operation readiness. I'm like, well, 200,000, that would get decimated by a carrier task force pretty quickly, my friend. Sorry. Yeah, what are your thoughts about sending a carrier task force off the coast of Venezuela, Colonel?
I love it. I love it. I love to see the Venezuelan communist panic. This is fantastic. I mean, Gerald Ford is our biggest carrier. I
Yeah.
love it. This is just. I'm I got a bag of popcorn I picked up at BJ's. I'm waiting for. This is
Has it
I
got the
was
extra
I
butter?
was I was in the Gulf War and other conflicts, so I couldn't watch CNN as the war unfolded. So I'm ready to get the popcorn out with a little bit of V8 there, cocktail juice, and just enjoy this. It's for me. It's comical to see them. It's very simple. Venezuela needs to stop getting involved in narco terrorism, and then we won't have this problem. Problem solved.
Right,
It's interesting.
absolutely.
It's interesting to me that the boats just keep coming. Do they think that we don't know they're there?
Yeah. Boom.
I mean,
done,
come on.
done, done.
Yeah, and I have another comment about that since you brought it up. The British,
Please, go ahead.
British have decided not to share intelligence information with us because the Trump administration is not disclosing how they're targeting this. Now, Britain is part of the Five Eyes community, and I think they should be suspended. Now, that's problematic because the way we're tied together, intelligence systems are linked to everything. But I think that we should take something back. If they're going to be an unreliable partner in the Five Eyes community, like New Zealand was for a while. In fact, there are some things in the Five Eyes community we actually didn't share with New Zealand because they're an unreliable partner. But then they should not have access to the most precious of secrets that the English-speaking world comes up with from its surveillance and intelligence programs. And it should send a message to the people who've sold the disunited kingdom down the river to become a caliphate. And so they should get the message.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, cannot trust them. I mean, they let their whole country go. And I know we have portions of our society that want to do the same thing here, but thankfully there's enough of us that are pushing back, saying no. But how long can we hold off against it?
Well, look, this is I'm kind of torn about what we're doing here. My answer would have been much more likely. My smarter move would be to use the military to detain these boats in international waters and then prosecute them rather than blowing them up. But I mean, I get why he's doing it. I understand it. I mean, if people want to get upset, there was far fewer people making big stink about Barack Obama murdering American citizens with drones in Yemen than they're complaining about this. So, I mean, these aren't American citizens. Not that they're any less important as human beings, but
Okay, so we declared a war on drugs, but what exactly does that detail? I mean, does this really fall in line with warfare? I mean, that war declaration on war on drugs, was it more words,
I
or
think
was there
it's just
actually?
it's rhetoric. It's not a declaration of war.
Kind of what I thought. So it's kind of hard to lean on that and say it's warfare, but at the same time, the thing about it is with drugs. Okay, first of all, you pointed it out right. It's state sanctioned. It's not like these guys were individuals taking action on their own. You're saying it's state sanctioned by the country of Venezuela.
Yep.
So that's one thing. The other thing is these drug dealers are predators, man. This is no joke. If people don't understand, this drug that is infiltrating our country is destroying our country from within. We're seeing people struggle horribly with drugs. We've known for years that drug dealers are savvy. They've taken a corporate stance and how they operate. They literally feed drugs to fifth graders to get them hooked so they have customers for life. So we're forced to send our children to school, in which case they infiltrate these schools and get our children hooked on drugs. This is bullshit. And it's time for it to stop. And it's time to see somebody like Donald Trump have some backbone, stand up and get the job done. No matter how hard it is and what it takes, he's doing it. We got to protect our own.
Well, along those lines, you've hit on a key element here. If a state is behind this, are we supposed? It's like, put this in this concept. Are we supposed to wait until a threat lands on our shores before we stop it, before we interdict the threat? But again, to me, it's a choice of whether you use lethal force or not. I don't know that lethal force is necessary. I'm not arguing against it or for it. I'm just being, a neutral arbiter here, but I think interdiction is perfectly legitimate, and I'm not arguing that using deadly force is illegitimate. But I personally, if I were president, I would use interdiction. I mean, we have the forces; we can stop these people. But you get some crazy stuff. I mean, when I was in Liberia, the French were interdicting drug trafficking because we had cut down some of the routes coming to America by preventing some of the planes from flying. We used to be a lot of planes that fly across the land in Arizona and New Mexico and on strips out in the desert and they fly in low. But we put a stop to that. And I won't discuss how we did it, or they'll start doing it again, but we put a stop to it for the most part. And when that happened in the early part of the century, suddenly the drug dealers started shipping their cocaine to West Africa in transshipment to get to Europe. And that's because they were trying to get to Europe with the stuff. Anyway, what happened is the French were patrolling in West Africa off the coast of Liberia, and they found a drug running ship. And they chased it. Well, our marine attaché or defense attaché got on a fast boat and went out to the French ship and got on it. And as they were trailing, because they were trailing this boat, they're taking the bags of cocaine and they're ripping them up, and it's all flowing up. And the wind, of course, is blowing which way? Right back to the French ship. So the Marine and the defense attaché had to get a medical statement that if they tested positive for cocaine, it wasn't because they were using the drugs, because they look like they're like snowmen. They were covered in cocaine, man. It was crazy. Imagine,
that might absorb into your skin and stuff like that. I mean,
and that's why, because we get drug tests in the military, especially officers. They're in positions like this. Anyway, so I wasn't asked to go out that day. I'm glad I was out in the bush at the base where training troops, and I came back and I saw him when they came back. He's like, dude, what did you just make a cake or something? You got flour all over you? It's cocaine. I'm like, cocaine.
His eyes are this big. No, man.
Boss party, man. Boss party.
It was a Marine attaché. I'm like, dude, that is not cool in the Marine Corps. Ease up on the coke.
Yeah, right. Bad image, man. Bad image.
These are the fun stories of military life.
Or you go into some of those places overseas and they're like smoking hookah, and you're like, they're not smoking what you would think. They're smoking something a little bit more, So be careful.
Yeah, well, I just had to terminate a couple of bartenders, and several people suggested me because we call it one vaping, even though that's not allowed in the Veterans Club, and it says clearly no smoking, no tobacco products, no dip, no vaping.
Right.
And caught her on video, and she lied to me and said she wasn't vaping. So I caught her on video. And afterwards, people like, you sure that she was using vape juice? I mean, maybe there's something. I had thought about that. I guess, can you use vape to do weed? I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff now. Yeah. All sorts of hemp, weed, all sorts of products are available in vape form as well now. Yeah, I mean, any way to get it as quick as possible. I guess people just have to have it that quick,
And
right?
some of these states like Massachusetts, Colorado, California, Oregon, all illegally legalize this stuff. Go
Right.
figure that
Wow.
one out. Illegally legalized. I mean, it's a federal crime, and it's funny because you think about it. So they legalize it within their state, encourage the sale of it, tax it, but it's still a federal crime. So technically, the feds can come and arrest these people for distributing illegal or controlled substances.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
it's technically right.
Donald Trump was once entertaining the thought when he was 45. He made a statement. He says, I could arrest them, and it's not a half bad idea. But I think he decided it wasn't, I mean, it's just weed, dude. I mean, we should
Right.
actually
Well,
downgrade it.
well, but then you're going to go have to arrest government officials that have been duly elected at a state level. You're going to have to arrest governors, all the state
But
legislature, basically.
that's the
you
issue,
know.
though. We're expected to follow the law,
Right.
and they
And then there's a
nullify
10th
federal
Amendment
law
issue.
and
Right.
break federal law at the same time, and it's okay because they're government.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I get what you're saying.
This is crap.
But it would probably just get tossed out as some nuisance that, here's Donald Trump doing it again, It
Well,
probably
that's
wouldn't
just
go
it.
too far.
They go after
Sadly.
him and try to make him look bad.
Oh,
for
sure.
optics and stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. So he probably did the political math. It's like, yeah, it's not worth it trying to go about it this way.
It's not. You affect a whole lot of people, and it's just not. I think he just decided to leave it to the states, and as conservatives, we're big on states' rights, but
Right.
I still say it's bullshit because it's a federal law. Change the law if you don't like it.
Understood. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Carl.
Exactly. No, I was going to say this is exactly right. I thought for a second John was going to venture into the libertarian realm there, but that wasn't it. No, it's states do have rights. They're sovereign states, and people forget that. So I'm agreeing with that 100%.
Absolutely. So between now and next week, what does everybody have going on? Anything special going on that we should know about, or maybe your listening audience should be aware of?
Well, I'll be paying close
Yeah.
attention to the reopening of the government to see if the flow of refugees makes it over here. Honestly, if all the people who claim that they're going to give me an interview as refugees and arriving in America follow through on that, I may have to create a South African Refugees in America channel just for it. But I suspect a lot of people get busy with settling in their lives, and I'll only get a few of these interviews. But that may start as early as this week. People arriving that want to do interviews and talk about their experience. So, yeah, I'll be
Absolutely.
paying close attention to that. Plus, it's still rugby season, and USA plays again this weekend against Romania, and South Africa is playing against Italy. And that's kind of a trap game. They got to be careful not to fall into that. And for me, it's finally maybe some breathing room here. I've been so busy since July. I thought I was not busy this week, but son of a gun, every time I turn around, something new came up. So,
There you go.
but it looks like tomorrow, I only aside from a phone call and regular news reporting, I might actually have some time. Oh, no, it's the veterans tomorrow night. We have our VFW meeting. So my day is maybe Friday. Maybe Friday I'll have time myself. Anyway, that's I'm looking forward to a few hours, sit down, read a magazine, read a book, and get that popcorn out and watch Venezuela explode.
Wow, we'll see. Right? Yeah. Go, John. Go. What about you?
Well, not between as far as me personally, and I just work on stuff behind the scenes right now. I'm building stuff, but I'm not anything I want to announce. However, I don't know if you guys enjoyed No King's Day, but
There's another day.
Thursday of next week, on the 20th, I don't know if you've heard of Remove the Regime action happening in DC. So,
okay.
unfortunately,
So
we'll be able to make fun of it on Wednesday. We have to wait a whole week
is
after.
that against Trump or to get rid of Muriel
Remove
Bow
the
Wow Bowser?
regime means to get Trump impeached. Is what?
Oh, I thought it was to get rid of Bow Wow Bowser. Muriel Bowser.
You wish. I mean,
Yeah.
me too. I'd like for him, but no, these are leftists. and
Democrats are
remove the
so
regime
divided.
and-
You're not getting rid of it.
Well, you know why the no more Kings thing died? Because I pointed out that the king and queen are, of course, Nancy Pelosi 38 years and Chucky Schumer 40 years in the government. That is your kings and queens.
Well,
Well,
there
now you
is
have-
that, and I like Donald Trump's response to it about thank you for recognizing that we have no kings in the United States of America. We did make that obsolete in 1776. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and now Democrats are talking about having Chuck Schumer resign, and we'll see where that goes. If there's going to be enough fervor and outrage, we'll see.
That would be awesome. That would be fun. I'd like
Oh,
to see him turn on
we
the
don't
wrong-
want him to go now. He's proven to be quite ineffectual.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
They all are.
We got to keep him around. Keep Pelosi around as long as we can to keep using them for more wins for the Republican Party and the conservatism for sure.
Well, it's definitely all in our favor because they're nothing but serious losers. That's for darn sure. Well, he's proven how ineffectual he was. I mean, but what did the Democrats think they were going to accomplish here? What I mean, did they think they're going to win? I mean, their propaganda machine is ginned up. The media is trying to help them with Trump is starving babies and all this other nonsense, but they've accomplished nothing here other than hurting Americans. And a lot of people are upset.
You're familiar with the term desperate people make desperate decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what they are. They're just reaching. They're grasping for straws. They're looking. It's like, what's his name there? Kramer was saying at the beginning of the year, Jeffries was saying, we have no leverage. Where's our leverage? Well, this is where they were trying to find it.
Zero leverage.
Look, I get what you're saying, but the bottom line is that stupid people should wear signs.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It. All right, folks, that's our music. We'll be back next week, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. Till then, take care and God bless.